Hey there, folks. How you
Oh,
doing, Margherita?
welcome to our show today. It's so amazing. We have episode 67, and our special guest is Carlos del Junco, and he is a professional harmonica player, as you could just see. He's also a teacher. So, the topic for today is music is business. And we're going to learn from Carlos here, who has been a musician for a very, very long time. But first, I want to tell something about our forum here. Connections Forums offers interviews and talks about the most important areas in your life, such as handling intimate relations, nurture conscious awareness, and expressing who you are, and also to continue your personal healing process. The purpose of our shows is to inquire, inspire, and teach you skill for dealing with the mental, emotional upheavals that happens to anyone from time to time. And all episodes are recorded, and you can find them on our website, Hangouts on Connections. So interact with us live on the replays and by typing your questions and comments in the chat box. And we will get all your questions answered. And I'm Margherita Crystal Lotus. I'm a life and business mentor, helping women overcome emotional problems and get their life on track. I also have a healing retreat called Enchantment here in Kingston, Ontario, where I see my private client. So, over to you, Heidi.
Yeah, I'm Heidi Hornlein, and at the moment I'm in my native country, Germany, to visit a conference, an integral conference. And I'm normally a coach, I would say, in many areas. But as this is a music episode, I would define myself as a musician too. I was a classical singer, and then I taught singing and voice technique for more than 20 years before I came over to relationship coaching and all the other things. And I have a retreat in Italy where people can also come and stay and visit us. It is called Paradiso Integrale. And what else shall I say? Nothing. Leading over to our topic. You know, as a classical singer, unless you are in the very high range by fortune or by I don't know what, this is very difficult to create a business from that. And so I'm particularly interested in what Carlos has to say today and show us, maybe also to me, what I could do.
Okay, so I'm going to introduce Carlos to you, and it's special because he lives 2.5 hours away from me, and I'm going to go see his concerts, I think, and this is very special. So we will discuss how musicians can make a living from their music and teaching, and what particular differences and similarities they have with other artists, such as solopreneurs or entrepreneurs. So Carlos is one of those players whose music is so advanced that when it comes to award, it's either retire the entire category or rephrase the question to best harmonica player not named Carlos. And as you heard there, I think that's very true. As a teacher, yeah. Okay.
No, I didn't say that. Someone in Vancouver, just a correction, who was a festival director, used those words.
Yes, for sure. So as a teacher, Carlos brings up his expertise to all levels of students, and he has taught many harmonica workshops worldwide and continues to develop a close and caring relationship with his one-on-one students to help them to be the best they can be. According to Carlos, it's about focused, engaged, and intentional music practice. So, Carlos, how did that start for you? When did this harmonica appear in your life?
Well, that's very interesting. I started to play when I was 14. I was in high school. Yeah, a friend of mine played. guitar and harmonica on a neck brace, and kind of Bob Dylan style. And I think the sound of him making this kind of bending sound kind of did it for me. And I went out and bought one shortly. Started listening to a lot of blues records, and did my first kind of appearance publicly with my math high school teacher, he played a really great 12-string guitar, played some Leadbelly songs. And then I went to art school, got immersed in, after high school, in sculpture. Ended up going and doing an independent year of study in Italy with a grant after having graduated from Ontario College of Art in Toronto. And I then, so after the independent year of study in Italy, I came back, was still dabbling with sculpture, I was learning traditional stone carving techniques, and I continued playing music with a few different bands that were kind of not very serious bands, and I was really torn between the music and the sculpture. Had a bit of a kind of mini crisis when I was 30, thinking I couldn't really make a living as a musician, and so I decided to go back to university, and started taking part-time courses. And the short story is that I dropped out quite quickly because I had an offer to go on the road with a playwright and his troupe of actors, Thompson Highway, doing this play called Dry Lips Ought to Move to Kapuskasing. And I was the soloist, the only musician on the play, and that was really exciting. We got to go on the road and play in several different cities in Canada. And basically, at that point, I kind of decided I wanted to become a full-time musician. The calling was there, and I never looked back. And although it took another probably 10 years before I became completely full-time, I was, at that point through my 30s, I was making more than half of my income from playing music. And I worked at a framing poster shop. My old art high school teacher, really amazing and very smart man, had a really great business, and that was a great place to work. And there was a lot of freedom to go on the road and do tours when I had to. And I eventually quit that, and then it's been full-time since then. Let's see. So here we are, 2015. And I'm almost 57 years of age, and the music climate has changed, as most of you know, drastically in the last 10 years. So I'm monopolizing the conversation here, but I'm giving you a kind of bringing you up to speed of how I got into it and what I've done. But I consider myself very lucky. Having, at one point, I think when I was doing sculpture, I always kind of like to make a joke about the fact that stone carving has a lot of resistance. Literally, the resistance of the stone when you're carving, as opposed to modeling clay. The harmonica has a lot of this kind of resistance to get the instrument to do what you want it to do is not easy. And the point I'm trying to make is this. I thought, geez, what two better... In other words, what two more difficult ways could you try to make a living? Stone carving or playing the harmonica?
Wow.
and this one. So, and I've been very lucky. I've had some breaks here and there, and I worked really hard. I've definitely put in my 10,000 hours plus of practice time, and really trying to marry a kind of a blues sensibility with a jazzy sensibility. Having studied with the main guy that I got to study with was Howard Levy, who kind of no one plays like Howard. He's a guy with they say with two brains, who was an accomplished classical piano player and picked up the harmonica when he was 17. And I got to study with him, and it really turned my head around about the possibilities of this instrument. So that's how I got into the instrument, anyway.
Okay, so this is very interesting because it seems to me that sometime along the line you got so passionate about what you want to express, either as an artist. I mean, I'm an artist too, from a long range of artists in my family, and so I think the being an artist is my passion, painting or whatever, and the jewelry making and stuff like that. So I can understand that the passion in the heart to have something that you're so passionate about and then also get rewards from doing it. So I don't know. So when in your career did you actually start to actually be paid for playing the harmonica? Like, how long ago was that?
Okay, so it probably, I mean, the first paid gig I did, God, was when I was in art school, and played a weekend with this band that I formed, or not that I formed, but a bunch of us formed. We're all going to art school, most of us. And then after I got back from Italy, I started playing. I got a chance to play as a side musician with this guy called Buzz Upshaw, a really great blues singer and a guitar player who's since passed on. He lived in Toronto, and then we had a house gig at this place called Chicago's Diner on Queen Street West in Toronto, and we played there better part of 2 years. So that would have been mid-1980. So that was the beginning of starting to make an income from doing what I did, from playing this instrument. And then within 15 or 20 years of playing, I started teaching a little bit on the side. Meanwhile, always improving my technique and doing what I did. Again, it wasn't until I was 40 that I sort of took a leap of faith and became full-time. At that point, I had just put out my second CD, my second solo CD in a band format. I'd also done 2 other CDs in 1993 and 1995, which were as an accompanist with just a blues guitar player, Tom Champagne Charlie, and Tom Roberts, both who have since died. But at any rate.
So when you started with the CDs and the technology with that and selling them, what was the most trouble with that when it came to distribution or downloading music or anything? I mean, I'm not so familiar with that, but you mentioned earlier on when we had our discussion that the music climate and how it's delivered and how people buy it is different now from before.
Mm-hmm.
Can you discuss that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. Certainly in the last 10 years has been the biggest change. I mean, when this thing Napster first appeared and basically the essence of sort of sharing music from friend to friend, peer to peer, whatever they call it, this was the beginning of a huge change for not just musicians but writers, filmmakers, anything that's in a digital format and that can be sent through downloaded essentially onto a computer. That has been shifting gradually for the last 10 or 15 years since that technology has been just more easily available to everybody, the whole sharing thing, platform. So people are having to recreate each other. Live performance means so much more now than it did because sales of CDs essentially mostly happen at a performance, at a concert. So you always want to have something in hand. People love to have a physical object in your hand and get a signature. My sales of MP3s through places like iTunes, or there's an independent company called CD Baby, is marginal. I mean, there's a book called The Long Tail, which talks about the idea of people like myself or entrepreneurs who make a living, kind of eke out an existence doing what they love to do. There are several people like me who don't make a lot of money, but get to do what they love. The essence is this: you have guys like the Rolling Stones, as a musician, let's say, you have, or Prince or the band U2, and they're at the top of the graph, and you would quickly, X-Y axis, you would quickly go very quickly down towards the Y-axis, and this long tail of people that sort of goes on endlessly. You have the upper income of the people like Rolling Stones and U2, and then this endless tail of people like myself who do okay, on the internet. That's the advantage of the internet, is that it allows people to reach a huge audience. So
can I put a question here, Carlos?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
How is that with YouTube, where you can see, listen in this case, everything for free? How can people still be motivated to buy anything?
How can people still be motivated to buy? Well, that's okay. My opinion on that, or my experience with that, is simply, I don't know where the age demographic splits, but I think certainly people in their 20s, and a few people in their 30s, maybe a few people in their 40s. It also just depends on one's moral compass, generally speaking. But the younger generation, generally speaking, are the ones that don't even have a concept of what it means. What? Pay for music? It's free. So and of course people that used to buy vinyl records and over 40 or 50, let's say, understand, I think, get it, and just have probably a more ethical, or whatever stronger moral compass, and will pay for music. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think we got going back in former times where people thought whatever you like it, and why do you want to be paid for? Certainly I worked for churches often. I did church concerts, and the churches, yeah, you can sing, but you don't want money for that. You like it, so you give it free for God or something, So this was, we fought a lot to get finally paid, and it seems to be going backward now.
Well, live performance will never change. The recorded medium, which is digital and easily downloadable, and as an example, the last CD that I put out, which has been a few years now, 2011, called Mongrel Mash. The little dog you see in my lower third there, down here, or down over there, beg your pardon, is the cover of my last CD. Michael Rycraft, bless his heart, who designed that brilliant image. As soon as I put that out for sale and someone got it in their hands, as soon as one person shares it through these BitTorrent websites, then another BitTorrent, someone else from a BitTorrent website and a different BitTorrent website will grab it and share it, and then it spreads like a virus very quickly. And within 24 hours, I have a thing that's called Google Alert, which notifies me when my name appears, new on the Google search engine. And within 24 hours, I was just bombarded with emails. And it's like the cat is out of the bag. And suddenly, I remember even trying to email some people saying, please, this is how I make my living, please take it off. But to no avail. It's like a complete waste of time. And
so can I clarify that? Did you actually don't get paid for that? They downloaded it?
A BitTorrent website, like something like Napster. Did you hear of Napster? Napster was a platform, one of the first file sharing. There was a huge court case around it, and they were shut down. But essentially, as I say, the cat is out of the bag, and these other peer-to-peer, sharing websites, they're called BitTorrent websites, basically where you can download movies and watch them for free, music, and all someone has to do is put it into their computer. If they're a member of a BitTorrent website, they type in, upload the music, and then they share it with the world. That's how that works. And so it's for people like myself, musicians. It's trickier to make. Where I used to make a decent income from selling CDs in a physical store, a retail store, that is almost non-existent now.
So I want to ask you this question now. There is always a way to do business if you want to make that a living, right? And I found out from my own life that, okay, I have to use my brain here to create something that people want, and then I serve my clients with that. And you seem to have done that with your teaching method because you're playing so well, other people want to learn to play the same way. So it's not the music that you're selling your skill to teach other people to do it too. So is that something that is the main part of your business right now?
It's becoming a bigger focus. I mean, I'm really trying to. The other thing is that we're to allow a long-winded answer to your question. Where I used to do a lot more live performance. I mean, I still would love to do live performance, but I'm doing a little bit less at the moment, partly because I need to get a new CD out. There's a fellow by the name of Jimmy Boskill, who a brilliant younger guitar player and singer, who was nominated at the age of 13 for a Juno, our equivalent, Canada's equivalent of a Grammy in the U.S. We're going to be recording a CD together. Where was I going with this? I was making a point, and I went off on a tangent here.
Can we, in the meantime, bring up the comment from Jeremy? And he says, musicians are entitled to be paid for their copyrighted creativity. Too many starving musicians. You are so right, Jeremy. So right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. But anyway, to get back to the answer to the question, so live performance, the last few years I ended up doing a lot of my own booking, and I've been trying to play mostly just theaters and community halls and really don't have any interest in playing in bars anymore. And the last several tours I've done have been that way. And then last year, just locally in Ontario, the province where I live, I booked several theater shows and did my own promotion. I'm the artist on the roster, I'm the promoter, etc. And it's a lot of work to do this, but it's very rewarding.
Carlos, because we artists, musicians, we are sort of hesitant to promote ourselves. We want to be discovered. We want to be, taken around by other people who bring us up. We have such a. I talk about myself when I did this work, and I know all the colleagues. Such a resistance to sell ourselves. What is? How did you overcome that?
Well, I mean, I still have a lot of resistance to sort of promoting myself, and in fact, I've done very little to promote myself in the way of teaching, other than having a link on the front of my landing page of my website, carlosdelhunco.com. And I'm actually in the process, hopefully within the next month or two, I'm just finishing editing some video material about transcribing to memory. But the idea that I do have a big resistance to promoting myself. So the point is that I haven't done much to promote myself. With having had a booking agency at one time, that when things were much more, when I was producing a lot more records regularly, I didn't have to do that much because I did all these showcase gigs that they would get for me, whereby our booking agency books a showcase gig where you play for 15 minutes in front of an audience of presenters who are going to buy their talent for their roster. They're going to buy a series of artists for their subscription series for their theater for the following season. And so I got booked this way, and having had my foot in the door that way, I then carried on my own booking when things sort of started to slow down. So the promoting part of myself, I haven't done that much of, and I've just been lucky, I guess, because I'm good at what I do, and my accolades and awards that I've won over the years. So all that stuff has helped immensely. Now, but the business of promoting myself, really, I'm taking Lisa Engel's course, the Hangout Strategies for Visionary Leaders, is a way of just understanding the sort of partly the marketing part, and this idea of this hangout and being authentic and engaging, publicly with people. This is something I'm getting used to, and so hence doing this interview with a person who does crystals is going to interview me about the music business, you know, kind of thing, right? So, but I'm open to it, and the idea is that, of course, we just have to expose ourselves more as much as we can, and this is what we have to get used to, I think. And the idea of being an entrepreneur and promoting oneself. This is part of promoting oneself right here.
Yeah, it's very important to actually get feedback, I think, from audiences and from clients and from colleagues and network. So I don't know, I'm going to ask both of you, Heidi and Carlos, what do you think that you need for actually making a real business flourish as you would want it? Would you start, Heidi?
You mean as a singer?
Yeah.
I have given up on that to do it, but I think when I was in the right age and with the right capacities, I could have gone out in a bigger way. I mean, I sang all the time, and then I led a choir and so on, but it is a sort of, let me say, subordinate way of doing music. It's not the real expression which I would have liked to have, you know, with the really good musicians and not always, you know, with arranged settings, let's say. Okay, I think what I needed most, and which I'm coming now in the later age to acquire, is the self-confidence that I'm good enough, that I really, you know, have something to offer. And, you know, I see it with so many people. I certainly was like that after concert people come and say, oh, it was so nice and wonderful. Yeah, but, you know, I did this wrong or something like that.
Oh, my goodness, yeah. That's like not good enough, right? Yeah, I
even if you
that.
don't say it, but people feel it, that you were sort of not really happy or picked the little needle out of the haystack. So I think this is a sort of an energy which doesn't allow us to get out, you know. I think I get it now, but in that time I didn't. So.
So what do you say, Carlos, about that? What is this thing that you think is the most difficult thing as doing a business from what you're doing?
I mean, it's definitely the idea of promoting myself and putting myself out there through social media. I always, you know, because I am kind of sensitive to like getting constantly bombarded with emails like come and watch my Hangout or look at this post on Facebook or whatever it is, I'm afraid that I'm just going to be offending people the same way. But I realize because I'm a creative person and musician, not everyone thinks this way. People who are not musicians, who want to sort of engage with the artist, are thrilled, you know, to hear from people. And I'm trying to get used to this idea. And it's something I'm still not quite used to yet. You know,
so are you open to have like a music show, let's say on Google Plus, for example? We know other people like we have had here, Sue Ashton, for example, and she has this wide audience, and then she's playing, and then she has a following from that. Is that something that you could advise for harmonica players?
Well, I mean, that's definitely what I'd like to do. I mean, I'd like to, you know, start some sort of group in a small scale, maybe even just do some free seminars to sort of entice people. As I say, I haven't had to do much to get the few students that I have, but I have, you know, a small pool of people that keep coming back, and I'd like to expand that and do the the website I'm about to launch, by the way, is called harmonicapractice.com, and as you see at the bottom, my sort of business model, if you will, is this idea of focused, intentional, and engaged practice. And I think in this age of sort of attention deficit disorder, that myself included at times, you know, with the internet, there's so many distractions. And so people's attention span are very short in this day and age. And I find the more that I teach, as much as there's all this technique on the harmonica, which there is plenty, a lot of it is just, you know, the how to focus and how to like engage in what you're doing, and you know, the idea of saying a lot with a little and working that is on something small to make it effortless and one step at a time.
So if you're going to instruct somebody, how do you start it? Can you show us how you actually engage with your students a little bit and show them what to do, like the first steps?
Well, I mean, it also depends. I mean, a lot of my students are not just beginner players, so it really depends on what level they're at. The harmonica, it's a very fussy little instrument. And Howard Levy, my teacher, once expressed this idea, I think, of the compared to something like the violin, which is probably considered one of the most difficult instruments to master. You have this neck where you have these strings mounted on, and there are no defining frets to tell you what the pitches of the notes are. So you're doing this micro tuning adjustment with your fingers on the fretboard, and you're using your ear to tune the note. And in a harmonica, you have 10 holes, 20 reeds, but you have actually on this thing with this bending and over-bending technique, you have a palette of 38 notes besides the 20 reeds that are here. So with the 20 reeds here, you can get an extra 18 pitches, and I'll demonstrate. I mean, this is hole number 2, blow. Hole number 2, draw. Same hole, but there's one reed pointing one direction. When I blow, it responds, and when I draw, the reed on the bottom pointing the other direction responds. And when I bend, this is what I'm talking about, this micro tuning adjustment. And this is, first of all, this is just the embouchure of your mouth around the instrument to get a good tone, whether you're, they call it puckering or tongue blocking playing. There's 2 different ways of producing a note, a single note. And both are valid, but to do this micro tuning and adjustment on it, when we drop the pitch on a note, is what we do with this thing called embouchure, and that is not easy, and can take months or years to master, to get it to be effortless, and then you put expression into it. And I can control the amount of breath and, try to get maybe a kind of a saxophone-like tone out of the instrument. Like purposely putting in the breath there to get what I call the fwa-fwa factor of like someone like Stan Getz. Kind of thing. Anyway, so I'm sorry, I'm getting carried away. So how do I teach my students? I mean, one note at a time. And, you start with something simple, not necessarily with bending, just getting the single notes. And I have players that have been playing for 10 years, and they say, oh, yeah, I know how to bend notes. And they're just like, oh, yeah? And I essentially have to kind of reteach them. They have to forget everything that they learned, in a sense, and undo really bad habits that they developed. This instrument, unfortunately, begs more attention. And I'm getting carried away here, but, Bob Dylan, bless his heart, brilliant songwriter that he is, and what he does so well, is probably the world's most recognized. He's probably not the worst harmonica player out there as a professional. But the point is, I mean, the company Hohner, named a harmonica after him. But the people's idea of what the harmonica is and the sound that it produces is kind of like what Bob Dylan does, because that's the exposure that it gets on mainstream radio. No one has any idea what this thing's capable of. And it's guys like Howard Levy and myself and a lot of other really amazing progressive players, too many to mention, who are kind of trying to show what it's really capable of.
I'm amazed about the sound completely. What you get out of this instrument is it doesn't sound like a harmonica. I know, I had one of these. You did.
Yeah.
Completely different.
I mean, I listen to a lot of saxophone players for inspiration, piano players, and so I'm just thinking notes, and it happens to be that I play the harmonica,
So how many different instruments can you play on your harmonica?
Well, I like to think you can make like a trumpet sound. You know, with a cup, you can get this kind of effect. Oh, I'm not sure if this is going to work very well, but you know, and then
incredible.
You know, bagpipes. Or violin. Ooh, need some tuning there. So, you know, you can, yeah, saxophone I was showing you. Kind of thing.
We are so excited. I don't think we ever had a guest like this that engages and shows exactly what the thing is.
Well, of course, it's easy on this format because the instrument, first of all, is so tiny.
This is good. I was thinking about that. It comes right after the voice.
Yes, exactly. And in some ways, it's one of the closest instruments to the voice because you can do all this inflection and emotional, you know, wah, ma, ma, and this vibrato, which singers do, and rhythmic percussive stuff. Kind of stuff, you know. So, yeah.
Oh, it's so great, really. I love that.
Yeah. So, coming back to our original topic, I mean, I think that if we have a person like Carlos here, right, he's so mesmerizing and engaging. How can you not want to learn harmonica from him? You know, like how could you just say no? And
I'm a really good teacher. I am. I've been told I'm a very good teacher. I demand results from my students. Of course, you got to put in the work. You know, any good teacher is, well, first of all, they have to genuinely care about their students, and that is number one. And I like to think, you know, I always do follow up with my students after a lesson, and I send notes about what we discussed, and sometimes I'll do a recording of what I think it is that they should work on, and I can just quickly email that in an MP3. So it's just an amazing way to work in this format, like whether it's Skype or Google Hangouts. Really fantastic and easy.
So what I'm thinking here is like you're going to have a online program for harmonica playing. Is that what you're planning to do?
I mean, my plan is essentially to sort of to get more students. I mean, as I say, I haven't really done much to kind of really put myself out there on YouTube, other than what people have shot on an iPhone or something, or you know, there's a few decent quality. Actually, there's a really new video that is up and on YouTube or Vimeo. Through a guy called Rob Courtley, who shot a very professional-looking video, and it's a very brief interview of me, kind of similar to what we're talking about, but beautifully shot. It's called InterestingIsEverywhere.com is the name of the website, and you will see, like, it's a 2-minute long snippet, but gorgeously shot with really serious camera work and close-ups of the harmonica, and
right.
Yeah.
What I would like to ask you maybe at the end, what is the difficulty or the advantages of teaching online?
I think it depends on what you're teaching. I mean, I don't think, you know, with the, as I say, with a good camera and the right technology, like a good microphone, I don't think you could not. I don't think that you cannot. It's a double negative. I don't think that you cannot teach anything. The point is you can teach anything. It's just being far back enough. If you're teaching guitar, you have to be able to see the guitar, and that's trickier. So you would have to, you know, have the guitar pointing down so you can see the fingering, let's say. But in my case, like singing, although my voice, I'm a decent singer, I think my singing technique still could be improved on. I've taken several different singing lessons with several different teachers on Skype. I've taken, and so it works very well. I think the point is for things like voice or something small, which is, you know, you can see the head, my head, literally, and the same thing with singing, you know, because the camera is on your face. So it works perfectly in that. For something like piano, it might be trickier, you know. But the thing, the technology is there. You could set up 2 cameras and then, you know, figure it out. I'm sure it's possible, you know. It's really, the sky's the limit if you just have the imagination to do it.
It's really interesting here to see that when entrepreneurs come together and then they have a business, they discuss, you know, conversions, and they discuss how many dollars per sale or something like that. But with artists like myself, I'm not really interested in that. I just want to talk about what can happen, what's the results is, and the joy of it, and then the excitement of it. So, and I see that in you too, Carlos, because is it really important for an artist like yourself to actually focus too much on money, and is it just to be there and make a difference?
The answer for that, there's a famous saying amongst musicians, like, you know, the business of music, probably you know, the business of music is at least 80% of your time. The other 20% is making music. And you know, to survive in this day and age, I mean, I spend most of my day sitting in front of my computer, whether it's emailing, you know, booking shows, or editing a new video, or, I mean, you know, and so I'm lucky if I get an hour of practice in a day or something, let's say. So that in mind, I mean, yeah, you have to have a head on your shoulders to. Another thing, in living in Canada, I've been very lucky with things. There's an organization for the arts called the Canada Council for the Arts, which is, I think, government funded and private sponsors and stuff. But you know, this has helped support at least 50% of the touring that I've done across Canada, where they pay for the things like the flights and the travel costs and maybe hotels or food, so that the profit is real profit. Because you know, there are times when I've gone on the road where I've just broken even after all my costs of paying my musicians. I mean, you know, the cost of touring is very expensive, but it's important if you want to, you know, keep your fans engaged and buying CDs, etc. So, and of course, I love to.
That's a back thing that we don't really know as regular people, and you have to have the guts and the not scared of that to actually step out. And okay, so we didn't make any money, but we had a great show anyway. So does money actually count for you?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be doing it otherwise. I mean, you know, I mean, as I say, I've been very lucky, and I mean, I've worked really hard. I mean, you were talking earlier about confidence in doing what you're doing. You know, I mean, I wasn't really sure about my abilities and how good I was until I mean, I knew I was good, but then when I went into this competition and Hohner had in 1993, they called it at the time the World Harmonica Championships. Now it happens every 4 years. Now it's just called the World Harmonica Festival. I mean, you know, according to Hohner, they called it the World Harmonica Championships back at the time. It's not like I competed against, you know, 200 other people, but you know, the 30-odd people that I did, or 40-odd people that I competed against, I came in first in the category of blues and the category of jazz with this particular 10-hole diatonic. That helped me gain a huge amount of confidence. You know, it's like, oh, geez, I am better than I thought I am. You know, so does that answer your question?
Yeah. So, Heidi, what is your takeaway? We come to the end of the show right now. So, what's your takeaway here, Heidi?
My takeaway is that I'm impressed about the excitement and the energy you have, Carlos, and I'm really sure you will get what you want.
Well, thank you. I think I will too.
Yeah, good.
And so what's your takeaway here from being here on the show, Carlos?
Oh, it's great. I mean, it's great to talk about something that I love to talk about, which is this, this incredibly fussy little instrument, and you have to be a certain personality type to really engage with this. I mean, to excel at it, see the expression, see the forest for the trees. You have to see the trees and the leaves and the branches, to get inside this little thing and to make the sounds that you want to make. But I love sharing that, and so that's why I'm here today to talk about it.
So would you play for us the trees and the leaves?
The detail. I mean, here's an old melody. There you go.
Thank you so much, Carlos.
You're welcome.
We have to go, and Heidi, thank you too for being there at this late time. And there we go.
Thank you both for taking the time.
Bye-bye.
All right.